Ever wondered what happens when one consumes too much aspirin? Welcome to our exploration of salicylate poisoning. Salicylate poisoning is a significant medical emergency that arises from an overdose of aspirin, a common over-the-counter drug. The toxicity is characterized by a distinctive mixed acid-base disorder, and if not managed promptly, it can rapidly escalate to multi-organ failure. In managing this condition, the steps are systematic and precise, necessitating a keen understanding of the mechanisms at play. We begin with an assessment of the patient's airway, breathing, and circulation, followed by laboratory evaluations, and then move on to decontamination and alkalinization, fluid management, and correction of hypoglycemia. In severe cases, hemodialysis, the definitive treatment, is required. Now that you know what salicylate poisoning is, let's dive into its mechanism of toxicity. Salicylate poisoning is driven by a unique mechanism of toxicity. This mechanism comprises three main points: respiratory stimulation, uncoupling of oxidative phosphorylation, and impairment of glucose metabolism. Let's begin with the effect of salicylates on the respiratory center, which is located in the medulla of the brain. Salicylates stimulate this center, causing an increase in the rate and depth of breathing. This hyperventilation leads to the expulsion of carbon dioxide from the body, creating a state of respiratory alkalosis, characterized by a decrease in blood carbon dioxide levels and an increase in pH. This is usually an early finding in salicylate poisoning. Next, we move on to the uncoupling of oxidative phosphorylation. This is a process in which salicylates disrupt the normal sequence of electron transport and energy production in cells. This disruption leads to an increase in heat production and oxygen consumption, which in turn leads to an increase in the production of lactate and keto acids. The excess of these acids in the body leads to a state of metabolic acidosis, characterized by an increase in the acidity of body fluids. Lastly, salicylates also impair glucose metabolism, particularly in the central nervous system. This impairment can lead to hypoglycemia, a condition characterized by low blood sugar. This is especially significant in the brain, where glucose is the primary source of energy. It's interesting to note that these three mechanisms of toxicity all play out in the body simultaneously, leading to a complex interplay of metabolic and respiratory disturbances. This interplay results in the classic acid-base pattern of salicylate poisoning, which we'll discuss in the next scene. Understanding this mechanism is crucial in recognizing the classic acid-base pattern of salicylate poisoning. It allows for early detection and management, potentially preventing the progression to multi-organ failure, a life-threatening complication of salicylate poisoning. Now, let's delve further into the classic acid-base pattern in the next scene. The acid-base pattern in salicylate poisoning is quite distinct. Early on, respiratory alkalosis is the norm. This happens as salicylates stimulate the respiratory center in the medulla, causing an increase in breathing and blowing off of carbon dioxide. This is the body's initial attempt to compensate for the acidosis caused by the salicylates. As the poisoning progresses and the body's compensatory mechanisms get overwhelmed, we start to see a mixed picture. This is a combination of the initial respiratory alkalosis, but now with an added metabolic acidosis. This occurs due to the increase in heat production, oxygen consumption, lactate and keto acids from the uncoupling of oxidative phosphorylation by the salicylates. In severe cases, the predominant picture becomes metabolic acidosis, as the body can no longer keep up with the respiratory compensation. With these patterns in mind, you can better recognize the clinical features of salicylate poisoning. The clinical features of salicylate poisoning range from mild to severe. In mild to moderate cases, tinnitus or ringing in the ears is an early sign. Hyperventilation, excessive sweating, and nausea or vomiting are also common. The patient's heart may beat faster than normal, a condition known as tachycardia. As the toxicity escalates to severe levels, the body's temperature may rise, leading to hyperthermia. The patient might experience altered mental status and seizures. Hypotension, or low blood pressure, could set in, and the patient might struggle with pulmonary edema, a condition where fluid builds up in the lungs, making it difficult to breathe. Hypoglycemia, or low blood sugar, is another possibility in severe cases of salicylate poisoning. Identifying these clinical features is crucial. They not only help confirm the diagnosis, but also indicate the severity of the poisoning, which is essential in guiding the initial management approach. These clinical features guide us towards the initial management of salicylate poisoning. Warranted on notable bonds. The initial management of salicylate poisoning follows a stepwise approach. The first step, like in any medical emergency, is focusing on the ABCs, airway, breathing, and circulation. Ensuring a secure airway is crucial. However, avoid unnecessary intubation if possible. Why? Because the loss of respiratory alkalosis may actually worsen acidosis. But if intubation is required, it's important to maintain a high respiratory rate to match pre-intubation minute ventilation. Next, we need to ensure adequate oxygen supply. Oxygen is vital to help the body combat the effects of salicylate poisoning, especially as it increases oxygen consumption. Securing intravenous access is the next step. This allows for the administration of medications and fluids as needed. Alongside this, we must initiate cardiac monitoring. Salicylates can cause tachycardia and hypotension, so close monitoring is key. Once the ABCs are addressed, we move on to the next step of initial management, laboratory evaluation. Firstly, we need to check the arterial blood gas or ABG. This helps us understand the patient's acid-base status, which is typically disrupted in salicylate poisoning. Next is the serum salicylate level. This gives us an idea of the extent of the poisoning. And remember, we need to check these levels every 2 to 4 hours, as levels may rise with delayed absorption. We should also check the patient's blood glucose levels. This is because salicylates can impair glucose metabolism, leading to hypoglycemia, especially in the central nervous system. Checking electrolytes and renal function is also important. Salicylate poisoning can lead to metabolic acidosis and renal failure, so these tests can provide valuable information. Lastly, we need to measure lactate levels. Increased lactate and keto acids are a result of salicylates uncoupling oxidative phosphorylation. To sum up, the initial management of salicylate poisoning is all about stabilizing the patient and gathering crucial information about the extent of the poisoning. This sets the stage for the next steps: decontamination and alkalinization. Decontamination and alkalinization are key in managing salicylate poisoning. Let's talk about why. After an overdose, the first line of defense is decontamination. This is where activated charcoal comes in. If the ingestion happened within the past 1 to 2 hours, activated charcoal can bind to the salicylates in the stomach, preventing them from being absorbed into the bloodstream. In cases of a larger overdose, or if the aspirin is enteric-coated, activated charcoal may be repeated to ensure maximum absorption of the poison. Now, on to alkalinization, the mainstay treatment for salicylate poisoning. Here, intravenous sodium bicarbonate plays a crucial role. The goal of alkalinization is to increase the serum pH to between 7.45 and 7.55 and the urine pH to above 7.5. But why is this important, you might ask? Well, alkalinization traps salicylates in an ionized form in the urine, which increases their excretion through the kidneys and reduces penetration into the central nervous system. This is an essential treatment, especially in cases of moderate to severe poisoning. So, in essence, the activated charcoal works to decontaminate by absorbing the salicylates, and the sodium bicarbonate alkalinizes the body to promote excretion of the poison and protect the brain. It's a 1-2 punch against salicylate poisoning. Now that we have decontaminated and alkalinized, let's move to fluid management and correcting hypoglycemia. Fluid management and correcting hypoglycemia are crucial steps in salicylate poisoning management. When we talk about fluid management, it's not just about rehydrating the patient, it's about using the right kind of fluids in the right amount. Isotonic fluids are typically used to correct dehydration. These fluids have the same osmotic pressure as the body's cells and are effective in replenishing lost fluids without disturbing the balance of electrolytes in the body. However, it's important to avoid fluid overload, which can lead to complications like pulmonary edema. Now, let's move on to hypoglycemia. Salicylate toxicity can impair glucose metabolism, leading to hypoglycemia, especially in the central nervous system. This can cause symptoms like confusion, seizures, and even loss of consciousness. Even if the serum glucose levels are normal, the glucose in the central nervous system may still be low. Therefore, intravenous dextrose is given if the patient has an altered mental status or low or borderline glucose levels. By managing fluids and correcting hypoglycemia, we can stabilize the patient and mitigate some of the dangerous effects of salicylate toxicity. But remember, these are just steps in the overall management plan. Each patient's needs are unique, and treatment should be tailored to their specific condition. In severe cases, we may need to consider hemodialysis. Hemodialysis is a definitive treatment for salicylate poisoning. This procedure is indicated in several circumstances, including when salicylate levels surpass 100 milligrams per deciliter in acute cases or 60 milligrams per deciliter with symptoms. Other indications include severe metabolic acidosis, renal failure, pulmonary edema, altered mental status, and a failure of bicarbonate therapy. Hemodialysis plays a crucial role in removing salicylates directly from the body and correcting acid-base imbalances, leading to rapid clinical improvement. Now let's touch on prognostic indicators. Prognosis is poor if the patient exhibits severe acidosis with a pH less than 7.2, central nervous system symptoms, hyperthermia, or renal failure. These indicators can help guide clinical decisions and patient discussions. By understanding these steps, you can effectively manage salicylate poisoning and potentially save a life.